Community Voice PHL Talk Show, a show that informs, engages, and inspires. Community Voice is an award winning talk show that highlights the value based programs and services that people are doing all across the tri state area and right here in the Northwest section of Philly. We feature stories about people who are making a positive difference in their communities with engaging interviews with people who inspire you to get involved with building caring and process communities. So, once again, thanks for listening to Community Voice PHL Talk Show, a show that informs, engages, and inspires. As always, I'm excited to be on the air, sharing with you all the good things that are happening in the city. And if this is the first time you're listening to us, appreciate you listening in. And if you want to follow us on social media, our handles are all the same. We keep it consistent so that there's no hard way to find us. It's always Community Voice PHL. We mostly land on Instagram. That's where you can find us the most, Community Voice PHL. And we're also on Facebook, Community Voice PHL. If you want to reach out to us, send us an email about what's happening in your community, or to give any feedback about this episode or any other previous episodes you had a chance to tune into, send us an email to communityvoicephl@gmail.com, and we'll be glad to take your email and respond accordingly. We are going to be having a community voice community corner where we just answer some of your emails. We're going to start that segment up the next episode. So be mindful if you're sending out some of your emails. It's a good chance we will pull one of those or two of those or so and share those over the air. But again, send an email to communityvoicephl@gmail.com. Please always subscribe to our Apple Podcast. Our Apple Podcast is Community Voice PHL Talk Show. And also, if you would, please check us out on our YouTube channel, Community Voice PHL Talk Show. Those are two different ways you can check us out consistently, along with us being on the radio. So definitely want to appreciate you following us on each one of those platforms accordingly, because your feedback and your information that you provide about what's happening in the city really allows for us to thrive and be able to share and be able to grow and do the great work that we're doing at Community Voice. So check us out on Instagram, Community Voice PHL. Facebook is the same. Email Community Voice PHL Talk Show. Excuse me, Community Voice PHL at Gmail. Or YouTube Community Voice PHL Talk Show and Community Voice PHL Talk Show on Apple Podcast. But check it out. Things that are happening in the city this upcoming Saturday, November the 16th. Help for the Holidays, record clearing and community event. State Rep Anthony Bellmon will be having his event helping out for the holidays, where they're going to be doing a lot of great things for the community on that day, November 16th. It's going to be at Benjamin Franklin Elementary School, 5735 Rising Sun Avenue. And it'll be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. There'll be events happening from actually 10 to 3, but most of the fun activities will be taking place from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So get there at Benjamin Franklin Elementary School, 5735 Rising Sun Avenue. Help for the holidays, the food, fun, code giveaways, and again, a record clearings for anyone who has any charges or incidents on their records. Good possibility you can get some of that to begin to be taken off. A record clearing session will be taking place. Help for the holidays this Saturday, November 16th at Benjamin Franklin Elementary School. And then also, the following Saturday is going to be another great community event. It's going to be taking place at the at the Hunting Park Neighborhood Resource Center. Hunting Park Neighborhood Resource Center, Uplift Solutions with their Alumni Association. We're going to be having winter coat giveaways for youth ages K to 12. The Uplift Solutions Alumni Association will be having their winter coat giveaway Saturday, November 23rd, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday, November 23rd, 2221 West Venango Street. And for more information about that, you can check out the information at upliftsolutions.org, their website. Give you more information about their winter coat giveaway at their Hunting Park Neighborhood Resource Center, 2221 West Venango Street. So those are two good events that'll be taking place 2 weekends in a row. So help for the holidays on the 16th and the coat giveaway on the 23rd. And then also, November is National Native American Heritage Month. And along with that, there's going to be a lot of great things happening at the National Constitution Center, where there's going to be exhibits. There's going to be historical information about Native Americans, indigenous people, and the culture and the histories and traditions. So again, if you want to be able to support that, I think is a great thing to do. National Native American Heritage Month. and check out the events that'll be happening at the National Constitution Center. And for more information about that, check it out at constitutioncenter.org. That's www.constitutioncenter.org. And also, I know there's been some talk of certain books being taken out of libraries for various reasons, and not to get any political insights, anything like that, but because some books are being taken away and they're being displaced out of libraries, Little Freedom Library Initiative encourages residents in Philadelphia to pick up any books that are being banned because libraries are going to have to remove them from the shelves. But if you're, really interested in preserving some of that literature and sharing that in any capacity that you would like, Little Freedom Library Initiative encourages residents to visit several local libraries and pick up some of the banned books in over dozens of libraries throughout the city. And if you want information about where those locations are, if you want to pick up some of those books that are being banned and being having to be asked to remove from the library shelves, check out littlefreelibrary.org, littlefreelibrary.org, and you can get information about various different sites and locations where you can pick up some of those books that are being asked to be removed from the shelves by the libraries accordingly. So I think that's a great, powerful initiative for various different reasons. It'll allow for those who enjoy reading and enjoy encouraging their children and youth that they know to read have access to books. And so I think that's a great opportunity there. And of course, some of those books are being removed for, again, reasons that we care not talk about at the moment, but nonetheless, those are some books that are really substantive and that should be maintained in circulation in some capacity. At least the knowledge of some of those books should be shared in a proper context. So if you really want to be involved with that, I really highly suggest you check out the littlefreelibrary.org and get information about how you can pick up some of those books so that they can maintain substance in some regard. So those are the things I wanted to inform you about. And as always, we try and have a portion of the show. We give you some information about what's happening in the city with the two events that I mentioned, Native American Heritage Month and the Freedom Little Libraries books that are going to be given away. So all that information will be on our show notes. And as you look to follow us on Instagram and or any of our other platforms, you'll have continued show notes about where you can get up with those individual organizations and those events that'll be taking place throughout the city. I'm excited to bring on the guest that we have on the show. Before I bring on a guest, I just want to give a shout out to my wife, Altavis Rosario Jones. I just had the privilege of marrying the most beautiful woman in the world, so I'm excited about that. And I want to just shout out and give her the kudos for making me a better man in that space and dedicate this show to her in that regard. So appreciate you, love you with all my heart, and I know you're out there listening, so I appreciate you for your support in that space. Uh, Guest that I'm bringing on is someone that, when you talk about individuals who are doing work in the city, and you talk about people who are really just are dedicated and committed to that. There's plenty of people in the city that we could say that has that, and plenty of people in the city that we know who of that substance. But I'm glad to say that uh, this brother that I know, he's one of those people as well. Uh, really been a pillar in this community, the northwest section of the city, but also he's been a pillar throughout the whole city as a whole. But he's made a good footprint here for sure. And I've been in certain areas and traffic in the spaces that he's worked. Haven't had the direct privilege yet to work with him, but I'm excited to know that I get an opportunity to talk with him about the great work that he's doing. I'm talking about no other than Gary Hines, who is a seasoned business professional with over 30 years of experience in workforce development, education, project management, and program development. Gary is the president owner of a career consulting firm in the Philadelphia area, the Gary Hines Consulting Group LLC, which specializes in professional services for companies, nonprofits, community organizations, and individuals. So that right there just shows you the scope and the depth of work that Gary has been doing, and I'm excited to have him on the show. So welcome to Community Voice PHL. Gary, thanks for being on the show, good brother.
Thank you, good brother Jones. How are you today?
I am great, man. I am living a dream. I'm living a dream.
Very good, very good. Well, thanks for that introduction. I certainly appreciate it. And congratulations to you and your wife on your marriage and all
Thanks.
that good stuff. And yeah,
Yeah.
good to see you. Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute, but thank you for that. And I'm sure, like I said, my wife's listening, so she's probably smiling and taking in those thanks as well. So we appreciate that. But li-
Hmm.
but listen, man, I know it was just like what, it was a week ago. We were on a Zoom call because we both do they call it constructing, which is consulting and instructor. So LaSalle University's nonprofit center, they have this term that they've coined called constructors. Again, they take the word consulting and construct instructor and put it together for constructors. But we both are had the privilege of being the constructor for LaSalle University and their nonprofit center. And we were on a Zoom, what was it, maybe a week or so ago, talking about trauma informed care in that space. And so,
Right.
it was just like, wow, that's my man Gary. Let me reach out and see if I can catch him right now to be on the show. Because if I didn't catch you that day, I don't know when I catch you, man. Because you're a busy guy.
Yeah, I try to keep busy, stay out of trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I used to get busy and still be in trouble. So you gotta tell me how to get.
Right. What's the trick to that, right?
Yeah, what's the trick to that? Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So listen,
it's interesting beyond the LaSalle connection that we have the G-Town radio connection as well.
yeah, for sure. We're definitely going to get into that for sure. Yeah, because this is my first year with G Town Radio, and so when I was coming on board, everyone was telling me about the legend of Gary Hines. I was like, this. It's like you don't know Gary. Well, I know him, but I haven't had a chance to actually work with him or anything. And they was just like, oh my god, you got to know Gary. It's like, all right, well, obviously this is the dude.
Oh boy,
So this is
boy,
the dude.
I love being buttered up like that. That's a great
Nah, I mean, listen, I'm just telling what
thing.
they told me, man. So when I
Right,
when
right.
I had a chance to get you on the show, I was like, okay, I'm in the big leagues now.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Ah, you're welcome. You're welcome. But listen, we know about you from the work that you do, but some of our listeners and those who may get a chance to see this on our other platforms haven't really got a chance to meet Gary in that essence. But so give our viewers and listeners a little insight of who you are. I know I gave a brief bio, but I'm sure sometimes bios only touch the surface and are sometimes just the kudos that we've accomplished in our life, but not necessarily the person who you are. Give everybody a little bit about who Gary is, and then we get into a great conversation after that.
Sure, sure. So I always like to start at the beginning and kind of give you a little bit of background about, where I'm from and what I've gotten into in the past. But
Mhm.
I'm a Philadelphia native, born and raised in West Philly.
Yeah.
55th and Chancellor Street was my neighborhood, little small street that runs in between Walnut and Locust. And yeah, back in West Philly, we really had a great neighborhood. I had a blessed to have the neighborhood I grew up in. People that really supported each other. And you hear the cliche term about it takes a village, but we really had a village in my neighborhood. Families watched out for other families. We did all kind of things together. We played softball and basketball and went on trips and had block parties. It was just a good upbringing, a good solid foundation. I don't see much of that today, but that's another subject for another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I lived and grew up in West Philly. Went to Sayre Junior High. Went to West Philadelphia High School. Excuse me. And I went to Drexel for a few minutes. But I'll tell you the story about Drexel in a bit. But I did all my education and everything here, and then I moved out to California.
Oh
So
wow.
I
Okay.
lived out on the West Coast for about 6 years in the late '70s, early '80s,
Hmm.
and just to experiment and kind of see what another side of the world looks like. And but yeah, I did that, and then I came back, and I've been back ever since. So you guys are kind of stuck with me now here in Philadelphia. But
Yes.
yeah, a great upbringing and great family. We were a typical middle class Black family. My father was a trucker. He worked for a local pharmaceutical company delivering drugs back when it was safe to do that. The pharmacies around when they were small, there were no big box stores. They were all small
All right.
stores.
Hold up. Hold
Um,
up. Hold up. Let me let me
yeah.
pause because I'm gonna do this in a friendly way, but you got to clean that statement up when you say your dad was delivering drugs.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, yes, yes.
Cause that just
Oh,
came out too casual, and I know your pops wasn't doing that.
no, no, no. So he worked for a company called West Wholesale Drug Company, and West
Okay,
Wholesale Drug
okay,
Company
there
would
you
go
go.
to pharmacy manufacturers and pick up
Hmm.
the prescriptive drugs for
There you
patients
go.
in medical facilities
There you
and
go.
drop them off at pharmacies around the city. So
Yeah,
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 he wasn't on the corner.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. The way you came, like, well, my dad was just delivering drugs. I'm like, wait a minute.
but
It,
but no, it was real good, clean work, and it was
uh,
honest work, and it was union work, and all that
yep.
kind of thing. And he would take me to work with him sometimes, and I really got to appreciate, like the work ethic kind of thing that the guys that he worked
Yeah, and so
did. So
yeah, and so with that, is that kind of how you got the experience of like community work in the space that you're doing and understanding and seeing people? Because having had that experience of life and traveling and being in different spaces, that seems like that would be something that would be eye-opening to understanding people better. Was that something that you think helped out in the space of the work that you're doing now?
I really do. I really do think that I never really kind of thought about it like that, but I think the fact that folks from all over the country were living in California at the time, it
Hmm.
was a very transient area, kind of like DC.
Hmm.
So I think it gave me the ability to really kind of see a variety of different folks that weren't necessarily born and raised in urban areas,
Hmm.
some rural areas, from people from other countries, talking about a real melting pot. So yeah, I think a lot of that did influence the way that I kind of look at community now and kind of how I'm kind of open to working with all kind of folks. So yeah, a lot of that background of traveling and just getting to see other parts of the world. Yeah, it helped me out a lot. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because I could only imagine, because I know like from my experience, I traveled, but it was first it was initially just through athletics, and that allowed me to again just understand people and different cultures better. So I just was wondering if that was something that kind of shaped you in that space as well. Because when we get to see people beyond the North Philly, South Philly, West Philly thing, which isn't bad at all, but when we get to see people outside of that, that creates within us a better understanding on how to connect the dots, as they would say. And yeah, with your background, I just was curious if that kind of shaped you a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely did. And just one short story I'll tell you about when I first moved out there. Like the folks that I met and started hanging out with did things a little different than what we do here on the East Coast. So even as far as how they clean greens to be
Mm.
cooked in a pot,
Okay.
we're a little different from the way my mom and my sisters and everybody did it. And so experiencing things like that, just like things that in the culture and Black culture that are done a little differently depending on where you go around the country or even around the world. So, great street experience. No books needed, but definitely some good experiences there.
There you go. There you go. And now in the space of work that you're doing now, it's consulting for, nonprofits and community organizations. And one of the things I know you say you have a story about what Overbrook you said. What school was that you had a story you wanted to share?
Drexel.
Drexel. Okay, we'll get back to that. But I know you had a story about Drexel. But I want to talk about, the job readiness and the workforce development piece in and of itself. Do you think like in today's society, do you think that workforce development has to be revamped in a way where jobs are different and the workforce environment is different? Or because the employment rate kind of swings in certain ways and in certain categories and industries. So how do you leverage in your expertise in the ever changing workforce development environment?
Well, the number one thing I should start off saying this part of the conversation is that I believe workforce development is crucial to
Hmm.
the education of all young people, particularly in Philadelphia, particularly in underserved areas.
Hmm.
I think that the combination of having a skill and also having the knowledge and the
Hmm.
technical background will prepare somebody better for the workforce than it did, say, maybe even 20 years ago. So when I say that, I mean having a combination of what I would term soft skills, and you've heard that term, I'm sure, a million times.
Hmm.
It's like being able to show up on time, being able to take orders, having self-initiative, working a
Hmm.
team, those kind of things that you really can't learn. You got to practice by doing. I
Right.
think that part of workforce development is so critical for our young folks to understand. And again, it doesn't really matter if they're working in manufacturing, in technology, in science, even in construction work. Everything now is very technology based and driven.
Right. Right.
So folks have got to have that piece too. But stepping back to what I said about having just the basic work skills, the workforce skills,
Hmm.
most employers would tell me over the years, if you can send me somebody that would just, show up on time, dressed appropriately, be pleasant and friendly, take orders, do these kind of things, we'll train them on everything else. And this is in the industry. This could be manufacturing, this could be chemistry,
Hmm.
but that's the basics that a lot of people are missing when you talk about workforce development. So they're like, oh, I know Microsoft Office. Well, that's great. But do you
Right.
know how to work with another person that's sitting across the desk from you
Hmm.
and sharing that expertise and knowledge with them? So yeah, I think it's critical. I think it's important, and I think it has helped shape the way I approach workforce development and career readiness for people in general. So um, yeah, and that's one of my missions and goals for my company is to really work with people and show them some of the underlying skills that they need to be successful in today's workforce.
Yeah, and so and that's interesting because with my consulting agency GDA, I find that there's a small paradigm shift coming out of COVID. Of course, we've been out of COVID for quite some time now, but did you see that some of that was kind of had to be relearned in a lot of individuals and organizations because they were home doing virtual work for a good portion of time. Some of people have gotten even used to that, so now they're back into understanding how to sharpen their power skills and soft skills. Do you see that that's being part of the challenge, or do you think it's always been something that's been overlooked in that space?
Well, I do think it's part of the new challenge, post COVID,
Hmm.
coming back into the workplace after being sort of isolated for so long. For a lot of people, not everybody was in that world.
Hmm.
So, we're talking mostly white collar jobs
Hmm.
that had the affordability to have somebody work from home. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of discussion, and you probably have heard about it, about folks kind of having to relearn how to just work in a work environment anymore,
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
in-person type environment. So I think, um, and some of it has always been there, like how do you work, how do you play well in the sandbox kind of thing. But
Right.
also now it's kind of like, okay, so some of the days I'm here, some of the days I'm not here. When we are here, how are meetings structured anymore? We're so used to being on Zoom.
Mhm.
Can we talk anymore? How about my appearance and my dress and the kind of things that I bring to the table? So it's a new world. It definitely is post COVID, and the biggest issue you've probably been hearing about as well is a lot of people just don't want to do it. And they
Yeah.
got so spoiled with being at home and doing
Yeah.
remote work. They're
Hmm.
kind of like, wow, I can't even get, I can't, people are quitting,
Yeah.
because they have
Yeah.
to go back to the office. So it's an interesting time.
It is. It is. And so yeah, I know like the scope of your consulting work you do, like I mentioned, nonprofits and companies and organizations. Do you find that because people are, they're transitioning, I don't want to say quitting, right? But they're transitioning into other opportunities. Do you see that as like the entrepreneurial thrust? And what is how do you approach someone who really should be back at work but want to be an entrepreneur? It's not like have you had that situation before? If it's like, okay, Jeff, you're really not an entrepreneur. You really should, get back into mainstream. Have you ever had that situation before?
I see it a lot. Me personally, well, I'll tell you one thing is that my target audience is usually mid-career changers.
Okay.
So folks that are bringing some skills and some background and education to the table.
Hmm.
I don't disregard like recent high school or college graduates, but a lot of them, and I think that, and I'm not even sure if I'm using the right term. I think that we're in the Gen X generation right
Hmm.
now.
Hmm.
So those folks all seem to want to be entrepreneurs, and I see it in my own family. And some of them just think that, okay, I'm gonna open a boutique, I'm gonna open a hair salon, but
Right.
I'm definitely getting T-shirts and I'm getting swag, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna have an Instagram page, and I'm doing, but they don't realize that it's so much more to to building an audience, to building a customer base,
Right.
that kind of thing. But they see the glory and they kind of see, you know, some of the things, the rewards that they can get from owning their own
Hmm.
businesses, but the hard work is really, really needed. And some of that stuff, you have to go through trial and error to learn how to deal with vendors, how to deal with irate customers,
Yeah.
things like
Yeah. Yeah. And creating quality products. And again, this is not to talk down anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur. So please don't hear me in that vein. I just wanted us to get like a rounded approach to understanding that the challenges that you have in your workplace are sometimes challenges that can help you grow in your professional career in that space, as opposed to making a hard, abrupt shift into entrepreneurship and having to go through some of that challenge that may not be what's best for you. So just wanted to put that out there because if you're an entrepreneur and you really have that in you, please, please, please go for it. And Community Voice is never talking against anyone who has that desire. Um, what got you? Let me put it this way: what excites you about your work? I mean, when you wake up in the morning, like what's exciting for Gary?
Well, it's interesting that right now I'm so happy to have gotten involved with LaSalle's Nonprofit Center because I'll be quite honest. So it's been 10 years since I launched my LLC in 2014,
Hmm.
and it really has been an up and down sort of roller coaster kind of ride. It
Hmm.
hasn't been super successful, and a lot of that is based on me not, being sort of a pseudo extrovert. I'm not really an extrovert, but I will go out and sell myself and my business if I have to. But I didn't do enough of that, so I
Hmm.
never really got like a strong customer or client base.
Hmm.
So a lot of times, I ended up just using some of those skills in various part-time positions at nonprofits, which turned into full-time positions. So what excited me was I could use some of that stuff that I had learned about career coaching and career consulting in some of the positions I had. So, for example, I worked for People's Emergency Center, which is now called Hope PHL. You probably are familiar with it,
Yes.
down in the Mantua area. And I used to work with women, um, young mothers that had been homeless at one point. So we were training them on a variety of workforce development skills. So we would see them get positions like internships at various residential facilities. And a lot of times that organization would hire from within. So some of our graduates would go ahead and work in various capacities for what I call People's Emergency Center. But seeing the joy, seeing the happiness and the tears of young people getting, to make a difference and actually have an opportunity to do something with their lives. Maybe they had a child early on, they didn't get married, maybe they dropped out of school. A lot of things could have happened for many reasons. But the fact that they were trying to get back on track is something that always kept me excited and interested in this kind of work. So, and I know it sounds a little bit out there to say, well, I'm always advocate for the small guy, the person doesn't have any voice. But that is true for me to a lot of extent. I want people to be able to succeed. And back to your point about entrepreneurship, I certainly support all kind of entrepreneurs that are just starting out.
Hmm.
A lot of times, if they're clear focused and they listen to direction and information, they can
Hmm.
be successful. But some of them, they want to do their own thing, which is okay. But I like to be able to give young folks and even folks that are not so young some advice on how to just advance on into this crazy world that we're living in.
Yeah,
I think that's what gets me up in the morning.
and I'm glad you mentioned the last part there. Everything you said had some value, but as well. But that last part where you were saying that the older, you know, generation, if you will, who are career changers or looking to make a different space in their life. And the reason why I say I like that is because sometimes if you look at social media and society, it can be age driven. Where like, if you're that younger age demographic, seems as if, that's the thrust of your success. And if you get older and you didn't do it yet, it's just like, maybe time has passed me by. So I like
Mm,
the fact that you mentioned that, nah, you could still do it. You could still get out there and, make that change and be entrepreneurial as well. And that's one of the things for me, I often look at as I span the work with my consulting agency is that how can I make sure I have a balance of supporting not just the younger demographic, but also those who are, a little bit more seasoned and got a couple of gray hairs and want to still yet be entrepreneurial and they're, back into their work life. So yeah, I'm
yeah.
glad that you mentioned that. Glad that you mentioned
And,
that.
and yeah, and just to add on to that a little bit, so I do a workshop occasionally on age discrimination in the
Mm-hmm.
workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And for folks, it's interesting. I used to think it was 50 plus, but it's actually 40 plus now.
Oh,
So
really?
people are just getting discriminated at age 40 and 40 somethings. Like years ago, we would say, my God, that's so young. But
Yeah.
it really, you'd be surprised how many 20-year-olds are running companies and HR departments.
Right. So yeah, you hit on another point though. Not that I want to belabor on this, but you say 40 is like what you're experiencing here, and people say they're feeling discriminated. But that goes back to like what I was saying, how like if you're younger, it's just like, by the time you get,
Hmm.
man, I wish I was 40 still.
I know, right? But yeah, so and I tell these folks, a lot of them bring so much to the table. They have so much background, so much experience and education and knowledge that I say, if you're not finding the kind of company that you want to work for, did you ever think about maybe starting your own business, your own service, even if you're just a consultant, until you decide if you want to hang out your shingle and have a bricks and mortar or do online business, whatever it is, take some of that skill And I tell them, I say, you have to really sit down and assess what you bring or what
Yes.
you're good at, what you can
Yeah.
share to somebody else. So I think for the folks in the 50 plus, 40 plus range that are a little bit older, entrepreneurship is certainly a viable opportunity.
Mhm.
If they're being discriminated against in job hiring, which just happen more often than we know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's can reach out to Gary. He got all the insights for that for you. So Gary, definitely let them know you can help them in that space. So
Yes.
what's important to you on your work? I mean, it could range on various different topics for sure, but if is there any like maybe two or three things that these are important things for me when I'm doing my work? And the reason why I ask, as you think through the answer there, is that because often when people are talking about thinking about their work, there should be one or two things, if not three, that they can ground themselves on and say, "This is why I do this. This is important to me because of the community, because of the family, because of faith, whatever the reasons are." So, what would you say are some of like the three or so, if you have important reasons for you that you do your work?
Okay. Yeah. And besides the sort of business side of what I do in career coaching and business development and project management and all these kind of things, my community and advocacy work is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, just up here in general in the Germantown area, since I've been up here for 23 years now, I've gotten involved with a lot of different sort of community-based organizations, D-Town Radio being one of them, but also some of the work from LaSalle has taken me back into the Germantown community. I just did a great project with Germantown Avenue Crisis Ministry,
Mm-hmm.
which is an organization part of First Presbyterian that does a lot of great work for community members here that are struggling, in situations sometimes they're going to lose their house.
Mm-hmm.
So I think and again, there's a theme that kind of goes with me, being a former teacher and also being a trainer, being a coach, being a consultant. It's sort of just seeing and supporting other folks that are doing good work as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what sort of drives me a lot to be with other people who see the value and the vision of everybody. Everybody brings something, to the table. So I think that's one of the things that really keeps me going is the advocacy work, the community work, seeing an area like Germantown, which gets trashed constantly in the mainstream media. That's why I'm so in love with G-Town Radio, is the fact that there's voices.
Mm-hmm.
And what your community organization does right now as well
Mm-hmm.
is getting those voices out there that are not heard, that
Mm-hmm.
are skewed, that are, misdirected. So that kind of pulls me into the kind of work I do there. Um, and also politically, I think that also drives me too. Legislation, bills, ordinances, what's happening that's affecting people's lives that they don't really have any ideas about. So, the Working Families Party, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that I became quite familiar with over the last couple of years in supporting a guy named Seth Anderson Oberman,
Mm-hmm.
who's running for council.
Mm-hmm.
Now continuing that on with supporting people like Kendra Brooks and Nicholas O'Rourke, various people that I can see what they're doing. They're not going against the grain, but they're giving a different avenue, the way policy is made and the way things are distributed to the community. So that also excites me and is also very passionate about that kind of world as well. So advocacy, political opportunities, and then of course, as we just talked about the workforce development and getting people to be able to vision see their vision and dreams come to fruition and actually be able to do the things that they're passionate about and they want to do, and also get paid for.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think those are the things that keep me
Yeah, yeah, and that's a nice solid listen. And thank you for articulating those. And I didn't know you where did you used to teach at? Was it on what level? Was it like high school, middle school,
college. I taught at community college in
college?
Philadelphia.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and that's an interesting program too, because back when I did that in the 90s, I had a good friend. She was a hairstylist, and one of her clients was the head of the community services division
Hmm.
at community college. And I was happened to be in a salon one day, and she said, "Who are you? What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I do a little bit of retail management. I do this, I do that." She says, "Well, we need some black men down at community college to teach. Do you
Uh-huh.
have a degree?" So I
Oh
was
wow.
just, yeah, so I was just finishing up my bachelor's degree.
Uh-huh.
And she said, "Okay, I'm gonna bring you in." So I started teaching very part-time, just the
Oh,
basics, like GED prep,
uh-huh.
basic reading and writing,
Uh-huh.
and math, things like that. And then I eventually moved into technology and started teaching computer basics. So it was community colleges where I taught,
Hmm.
but I've done many workshops over the years into various places.
So you was at a shop and someone just like, hey, you want to teach?
Yeah, it was really no interview or anything. It was
Yeah.
she heard me talking and she got to talking to me and we had a conversation. I guess maybe she saw something or she felt she heard something from me, but it was a good open door to get me
Oh,
into the world of
talk
higher ed.
talk about open doors. So for all of our listeners out there, this is a pause for the cause here, just to say being at the right place at the right time with the right character will get you
Mhm.
the right things that you need. Because man, you got people still applying for the job you probably walked into.
They're like, how did he get that job? What's up with that? He must have paid her under the table. No, I didn't do that. But
I know, but that is good to hear in all sincerity, because sometimes we take for granted that those social interactions, right? Being able to, as you mentioned earlier in this conversation, how to properly communicate and present yourself, represent yourself, it all just comes together in ways that aren't necessarily just for the interview, but for case you have those times you have to, if you will, elevator pitch yourself or share what you do, and because of that, that led to that opportunity. I find that amazingly cool, my man.
that's why I like panel discussions and open forums where
Hmm.
people can sit down, like when they bring in career days, for instance,
Hmm.
and they want to, get a panel of parents or either people from the community to talk about what they do and how
Hmm.
they got there. There's a great program that I was managing a couple of years ago called the Dream Team, and it
Mm.
was around manufacturing, and it was young professionals, particularly of color, who
Hmm.
were in the manufacturing space. And you're probably aware of this. Manufacturing is so high tech now,
Yeah.
everything is robotics and
Yeah.
AI. And so, these folks would go out to high schools and say, well, if you're really not ready to go to college right now, maybe think about going into some sort of, skilled area where you can learn a trade or you can learn machinery or you can learn CNC machining and then go back to college and let the company pay for it. That's
Hmm.
what I used to tell parents all the time. Hey, go somewhere and work for a company that the company will pay for your child's education.
Hmm.
But yeah, and I also tell them that networking, and that's what I was kind of doing at the
Yeah.
time. I didn't even consider it that, but the fact that most people get their jobs today through somebody else,
Hmm.
somebody that works at the company or somebody that referred them. I mean, they can still go online, they can still apply all over the place,
Hmm.
but meeting people in a networking environment for professionals is one of the best ways to get a job.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And that's kind of the beauty and success of that the platform LinkedIn, because it's
Hmm.
it's on a social media aspect, but it's still that networking piece. You can never take that for granted, because that's one of the things that I often share with my clients and youth that I mentor as well. Like, look, that social networking, that opportunity to be in those environments and present yourself in a way that 6 degrees of separation, you don't know who knows somebody who can help you out. So that's always beneficial. So yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that. Thanks for sharing
And
that.
and I tell people too that you can do that not only in person, but since COVID, there's
Mm-hmm.
been so many meetups and so many online opportunities to meet in a Zoom platform or other platforms where you can connect that way as well. So it's not like I got to truck out to, Pateros or Panera Bread and sit down and try to network in a group like that. But,
Right, right, and that's true. As a matter of fact, that the session that me and you were in at LaSalle a couple weeks ago, I think maybe a week or so ago, the
mhm,
comment form that I mentioned. You
right.
remember? I don't know if you remember how the whole session went, but remember when they broke us down into groups and we went to separate groups to do some of the workshop.
Hmm.
So I'm sharing that story because one of the people that I met in that group online, as you had mentioned, Rachel Hicks. I don't know if you're familiar with Rachel. Uh,
Not sure. I met so many people that day.
Right, yeah, but she was truly phenomenal, and so we connected virtually, just like you were saying. So it doesn't always have to be in person, and she's gonna end up being a guest on the show once we can get her a calendar date. But the aspect of doing things virtual is real, and it can happen if you just apply yourself in that space and be willing to have the sharpened skill sets that Gary can teach you how to have.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And I just think right now in this moment that we as a people really need to support each other,
Hmm.
talk to each other, find out, hey man, what are you doing? How
Yep.
can I help your organization? What does your organization offer? Or could you use some whatever that I may bring to the table? Just because we really need to network within ourselves, because I just feel, and I don't want to get political at all, but I just feel that the coming days are not going to be all that bright for young Black folks graduating from high school or college just to get into the workforce and do the things they can
Yeah, and I totally agree. And as you said as well, not to get too political in this space, but there is a precipice of change that's going to be coming, and it's gonna, I think personally, it's gonna, and I'll use this word, demand that those who have gray hairs can be the ones that those who don't look to for that solidification in our
do.
community,
Hmm.
because those who do have the gray hairs are the ones who, for the most part, have the knowledge and wisdom to be able to navigate. Because for me, I've been through some hard times before, right? So it's just like, okay, I can show you younger folk how do we navigate this? Because as a man of faith, if I can say so, it's expression trouble don't last always. So
Hmm.
we know we may be going through something, but if you can glean the wisdom, not just for me, but others as well who are a little bit more senior, to say, hey, this is how we do it. We'll use your youthful energy with my wisdom or with the older saints' wisdom, be able to get through, because yeah, like you said, it's going to be some challenging times. It's going to take all of us so that we can be the best of who we need to be when we come out. So um
Yeah.
that collaboration part is key, as you were mentioning.
Very, 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 very critical. And I'm glad you brought in, the faith aspect because I believe too that our churches, can do a lot to help us get through this next period of time that we're going to go through, particularly around the areas of mentorship
Mm-hmm.
and support
Mm-hmm.
to families. And just letting folks know here, there's a space here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Other people may be shutting you out. I heard you mention earlier about books being taken out
Yeah.
the library, which we're all familiar with that phenomenon that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that other organizations like churches and youth groups can certainly help us get to where we need to be.
Yeah, yeah, you just sparked a thought for me too, man. If we could, cause with the Little Liberties library thing where they're giving away books, some of the churches can go and pick up some of those books, right? And
Mm-hmm,
put them
mm-hmm.
put them there. So
Right. The banned books could be in churches now.
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
have a church library.
there you
And I'm
go.
sure some of the big, are you an E9 guy?
I am an E9
Okay, I
guy.
kind of thought that when I saw some of your Instagram. Big fan of Pastor Waller. I don't go there, but I know people that do. And even places like that. That is where, being on committees, being in ministries, where you
Yeah,
really can connect and find out that there may be opportunities because somebody that knows somebody that might be in the target industry you're looking for. So
that's right. Yeah,
getting on
yeah,
the workforce development piece of
that's for sure. Somebody that can get you a teaching job. Is that what you?
it. At community college, yes. And you
Yeah,
just go to my friend's hair salon and you talk to somebody sitting in a chair. Nah.
that's all. Forget that application stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep, yep.
So listen, I do want to go back to your Drexel story because I've been intrigued, and I know our listeners have been intrigued. So what's up with Drexel? So.
Yeah. Well, when I graduated from high school in 1974, West Philadelphia High School. At that time in the 70s, they were giving out scholarships to Black folks all over the place. Like, so I ended up year one at a high school in Springfield, Ohio,
Hmm,
which is infamously known now as the Cats and Dog Place, right?
yeah,
Springfield, Ohio.
yeah,
I
yeah.
went to a small, tiny liberal arts college that was 2% Black.
Hmm,
And so, I was in for a total cultural shock. And I said to my mother and father, you got to get me out of here.
wow.
And I can't live out here in the middle of the woods, nowhere with all these people that I don't know.
Right,
So
right.
I came back to Philly for my sophomore year, and I went to Drexel.
Hmm.
But the story I have about Drexel is that, graduating from, and I'm not trashing the school district of Philadelphia, but graduating from West Philadelphia High School did not prepare me to be a good student at Drexel.
Hmm.
Drexel is a high-end,
Hmm.
highly technical school
Hmm.
with a lot of people that go there. And I would sit in the classroom with people that went to St. Joe's Prep and Roman Catholic and Central, and they
Hmm.
had this stuff. And they looked at me and said, "Didn't you have this in eighth grade?" No, I
Yeah.
didn't. So my
Yeah.
funny story is that I didn't finish graduating from Drexel. I ended up dropping out and I got my degrees from Eastern and Chestnut Hill College.
Okay.
But the whole thing about coming from a school district in Philadelphia doesn't prepare you for the real world. At least it didn't back then. So I'm wondering if things have gotten better. Maybe
Yeah.
they have, maybe they have. But,
Yeah. So my wife, she works in the district. So uh slightly yes, slightly no.
mm,
And I've done some consulting work with some of the schools because I do educational consulting as well. So yeah, slightly yes, slightly no, man. Because I still hear a lot of stories about how the students aren't being prepared. They're being prepared to go to college, but they're not being prepared to go to college, if you know what I mean. So,
Right, right.
so yeah, a lot of that is still there, and a lot of that is the push. And so let me just ask because I ended up going to Penn. So I was at Penn. I didn't start at Penn, but
Okay.
I finished up at Penn. And
Hmm.
when I was going there, my first semester there, I felt like, yeah, nah, I don't belong here. I'm not smart enough. I don't know. I felt like an imposter. So
Hmm.
was any of that your Drexel experience, like that imposter syndrome, because of, like you said, you just didn't have the academic background that maybe you should have needed?
I felt like that for some time, particularly in different classes where, like in math classes in particular, like some of the
Mm-hmm.
basic stuff that, you learn in high school, I should have known or I
Mm-hmm.
should have had a stronger grip on, and I didn't. So
Mm-hmm.
I did feel like that, but I'm keeping something from you, and I'll tell you what it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to Drexel, I also wasn't a serious student because I was a party boy.
Yeah.
And so my idea of going to school was like, okay, so where's the next party at? Like where's the frat party? Where's this? Where? So I didn't pay attention a lot
Yeah.
in books.
Yeah.
I may have actually, when I think about it, hindsight is always, the
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
I probably could have gotten through Drexel, but I just decided that I couldn't do it because then you can't really party and go to Drexel.
You had your priorities.
Yes, yes. You got to be in the book some of the time. So that, yeah,
Yeah.
that was my priority back when I was a young buck. So.
Yeah, yeah, no, I can totally relate, because like I shared with you, I didn't start out at Penn. I ended up there, but my first couple years, me being a college athlete, I played basketball and baseball, so there goes my priority.
Mm-hmm. It's all about the games, right?
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So I totally get what you're saying. We are not who we once were in those spaces, and people may not realize it, but yeah, we can relate.
Right. I think the deal is recognizing that and then doing
Hmm.
something about it before
Yeah,
it's too late.
amen and amen. Because what
Mm-hmm.
happens is that's when that change comes of realizing what you are what your potential and purpose is. Because sometimes we as a people collectively, not anybody in particular, but we can waste that. Well, I don't want to say wasted. That's too harsh of a word. We can let too much time go by before we realize it. I should say that's a
Mm.
better way of putting it.
True,
Um,
true, true. Yep.
yeah, and so for me, that's where I'm trying to catch a lot of, my personal clients that I work with, trying to catch them at that point where it's just like, you don't want too much more time to go by here because, there's a window of opportunity and there may be another, but right now let's capture this one while we can. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
so as we get ready to wrap up this segment, I can't believe almost an hour going by, Gary. You
I
talk
knew it
too
would be.
much.
I knew it would be close to an hour. I knew
Yeah, yeah, you talk too much, man. You talk.
that.
So let me what do you think is responsible for your success? Is there any like nugget that you can share with our listening audience and those who will watch you on YouTube? Like, without of course divulging anything that, they could compensate you for. But what is like a nugget that you could leave with our viewing and listening audience that can say, hey, these three things, you do these three things or two things or whatever, practice these, and this will be your path to success because they've been something that's been helpful for you.
Well, for me, I have to lean back into my upbringing and my parents. And my father
Mm-hmm.
was always a strong advocate for, us doing for us.
Mm-hmm.
He told me and my brother that, you need to, if you're going to go to college, and matter of fact, we had no choice in that. You were going to college.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
didn't go, but you were going to go. Okay. So we had to go. And it's like, you're going to study business because you, as a black man, need to know business. You need to know how
Mm-hmm.
to handle your money, how to handle your business. So you're going to be a business major. I didn't even know if I wanted to be a business major, but I ended up, that's one of the reasons I went to Drexel because it was known as a business
Yeah.
college at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think leaning in and learning from your parents, and hopefully they have good values and good morals, and they, have brought you up the right way. But listening to some of the suggestions and not just dismissing that. I mean, one of the problems I do have with some of the Gen Z and Gen X folks is that they don't want to listen. They
Mm-hmm.
don't want to take advice. They don't want to hear like the war stories. And that's unfortunate because a lot of times we bring things to the table that they may experience in a different realm, but it's something that we kind of went through too.
Yeah.
I think learning from that is really, really key. And then so that's one thing. Learn from your parents, your ancestors, talk to people, find a mentor, find somebody older, hopefully find somebody in the industry that you're interested in,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or even just somebody to give you a good, like somebody to hear you if you just want
Yeah.
to talk about, how bad it is in school, how bad it is in your neighborhood. You need somebody to talk to. That's one thing. I think the second thing is also to just be out there, not to be an extrovert, but also speak your voice. Don't hold things in. Talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
and when you speak and know what you're saying and have some agency behind it. Um, I think that's so critical in just life. It doesn't matter whether you're talking career, whether you're talking marriage or relationships. Um, your voice needs to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people need to get used to that. And even in my own family, I see people that don't want to speak up. They don't want to,
Mm-hmm.
rock the boat kind of thing, but they need to do that in order to advance and to grow. Well, a lot of people are stuck in their little shells and silos. I think
Right.
they need to come out of that. So I would give those two pieces of advice. Learn from your elders, find a mentor, and then also speak your mind, your truth, and be forward about it. Be upfront about it. Don't hide.
And those are solid pieces of wisdom to land on. I appreciate you being on the show, Gary, and sharing that and all that you have in terms of the expertise and the consulting work you do, advocacy work that you do, and laying down that strong foundation of what it means to truly be successful and what a success looks like. So I truly appreciate you. So how can our listeners and viewers get a chance to, catch up with you? Maybe, they want to just hear more about what you're doing, or maybe even trying to enlist your services for some of their organizations or them as an individual. How can they contact you and get with you?
Well, for your listeners and your audience, I would be like to offer something today, like a one-day special here, that if folks want to call me or contact me at Gary at GaryHinesConsulting.com, I would offer a free 30-minute consultation on career stuff or project management, whatever they might want to talk about. But I would like to offer that to your audience right now. But that's my main website, GaryHinesConsulting.com. I am on the social, so I have under the same name, Gary Hines Consulting on Instagram and Gary Hines Consulting on Facebook. I didn't mention to you that I also do a little bit of music stuff. So
Oh,
I have a
okay.
show on Scribe, WPEB.
Okay.
Even though I'm a board member at G Town Radio, I have
Mm-hmm.
a show at Scribe, which has a broadcasting component called WPEB. It's called
Okay.
House Music and Chop Talk.
Okay.
Sundays from 2 to 4.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. See, I used to DJ as well. I'm not used to. I still DJ every now and then, so that's cool.
Hmm.
So when you said music, I thought you was gonna break out in a song. So I thought you was,
No, I don't sing.
come on. See, now you're holding back again. I get it. I get it.
Well, and I can use the excuse that I just had a tooth pulled today. So,
Wow.
luckily I
Wow.
took a couple of aspirins and I'm feeling okay.
Well,
But
wow, wow. Well, you're a trooper there. That just shows right there. You're really committed and you're a man of integrity because any
I try.
dental any dental work would have knocked me out for the day.
Yeah,
I'd have
yeah.
been
I
like,
figured I
yo,
said, no, I want to talk to you and I want to, get this going. So that's good. So yeah,
wow, wow. Well,
worked out.
I and we appreciate it. So thanks again for being on the show, Gary. I definitely appreciate it. So for all of our listeners and viewers, we'll have all the information how you can contact Gary and take advantage of some of the services he has to offer. He is offering that discount as he mentioned. We'll have that and get in the show notes. And if you are reaching out to him and want to take advantage of that, mention Community Voice PHL Talk Show as you do reach out so that he can be mindful to give you that generous discount. We greatly appreciate that. And thank you, Gary, again for being on the show. Any final closing remarks? Right, we wrap it up here.
Well, I want to say I appreciate you and the work you're doing. I know that, you and I have connected in the past on other activities and resources. Were you on the Marriage Commission of African American Males?
I sure was.
That's how I know you. That's how I met you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yep.
good.
Yep.
We see some of the great things those brothers are doing.
Yes,
But again, I
indeed.
want to commend you on your show. I look forward to following you and finding out what's next and all the good things you're doing. And anywhere I can be of support and help, certainly let me know.
Will do. And we appreciate you as well. And likewise, if anything like comes up in the scope of your work that you're doing and we can support each other, because like you said earlier, part of our conversation, that collaboration is real. And with community voice, we don't want anything to be not reciprocal. So as you're
Hmm.
being a guest on this show, I would love to be a guest in any of the work that you're doing. And we look forward to building on that. So appreciate you, good brother.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I appreciate you too.
All right, all right. So that was Gary Hines from the Gary Hines Consulting Agency, a consulting group LLC. We'll have all that information in our show notes, how you can reach out to Gary. But as we wrap up for this evening, I want to leave you with this thought: focus on what provides value to others, not just what impresses others. Again, focus on what provides value to others, not what just impresses others. And I say that because that lends me to really understanding the work that my good friend Gary does. He works as value, not to impress others. The work that he does adds value to their life. And yes, it does leave that pleasing purpose. He's not looking to impress anyone, because when you try and impress people, then you're doing things that maybe you have to do over and over again, because you can never please someone who you're trying to impress. But when you add value to their life, they will always be pleased because they know that you care. So remember, always add value to others and don't try to impress them. And when you do, you'll find yourself leaving a legacy of work like my good friend Gary Hines is doing, who's always making a difference in the community in every way that he can. So just remember that as a final word for today's show. If you want to catch up to us again, follow us on Instagram, Community Voice PHL, and also on Facebook, Community Voice PHL. If you have any feedback about this episode or any other episode, send us an email to communityvoicephl@gmail.com, and follow us on our YouTube channel and our Apple podcast at Community Voice PHL Talk Show. That's all we have for this evening. And remember, if it's happening in your community, we need to hear your voice. Peace, and we are out.